Last week you drew a grid using a ruler and you filled in each of those squares with a letter of your name. Today we are going to paint these squares in using watercolor paints. Watercolor paints are dry when they're in the tin, so in order to turn them into paint you have to add water. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swish my brush around in the water. I'm going to scrape my brush on the side so I don't have any drips. And then I'm going to put my brush into the paint tray and mix it around so that it turns into paint. And my brush is going to soak up some of that paint like a sponge. And then I'm going to paint over my letter. Because I traced over my letter with crayon, that letter is going to show through the paint. That's called a wax resist. Now if I want to do a new color for my next square, I need to rinse that brush out really well, scrape off the extra water, and then I can go ahead and mix up some paint in a new color. When you're painting, make sure that you go all the way to the edge of your square. You want to go to the edge of your paper too. So if a little bit of paint shows up on the table, that's okay. We can wipe the table at the end. Okay. Would I put this brush right back into the red? The answer is no. I bet you all let me know that the answer is no. Instead, I am going to rinse my brush out, scrape off that extra water, and then I can put my brush into the red to make some red paint. What I want you to make sure and do is don't worry if a little bit of that paint goes to the other side, right? If it doesn't stay exactly in the square, that is okay. We are not going to stress out about it. That's why we have these lines with crayons, so that those lines will still show through even if the paint goes over just a little bit. All right? I'm going to rinse my brush off, and I'm going to go back to the blue. When I look at my blue color, I can see that there is still paint in there. So I don't need to put a bunch of water into that paint tray. I can scrape most of the water off. Since I already have some paint mixed up in the blue part, I can put my brush in there and soak up the paint that I already have. And then I'm gonna just paint that shape. And you can see how that orange crayon pushes through the water. When you look at your cup of water, right now my cup, the water is still pretty clean because I can see the brush inside when I put my brush into the water. If your water gets so thick that when you put your brush inside you can't see the brush anymore once it goes into the water, that's how you know that it's time to get a fresh cup of water. And you'll notice that I only filled up my cup about halfway because we don't want to have any spills. Go ahead and keep painting all of the squares on your artwork, and when you are finished you can let your teacher know and they will let you know what the next step is in art today.